The spaceship Harmony floated quietly in the dark space between two star systems. It was a diplomatic vessel, which meant it carried important people from different planets. They came here to talk, to make deals, and to learn about each other. The ship was big and beautiful, with long white corridors and bright lights that never turned off. Yuna worked on Deck 7. She was the chief maintenance officer, which was a fancy way of saying she cleaned things and made sure everything worked properly. She had been doing this job for 6 years, and she was very proud of her work. Deck 7 was always the cleanest deck on the whole ship. The floors shined like mirrors. The walls had no dust. Even the air smelled fresh and nice. Today was a special day. The Velkari were coming to visit. Yuna had heard many stories about the Velkari. They were a warrior species from a distant planet. They had thick fur covering their bodies, sharp claws on their hands and feet, and teeth that could bite through metal. They were taller than humans, some reaching 7 feet in height. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dark, and their voices sounded like thunder. But the Velkari were not enemies. They wanted to be friends with humans. This meeting on the Harmony was very important. If things went well, the two species would sign a peace agreement. If things went badly, well, nobody wanted to think about that. Yuna checked her supply closet one more time. She had bottles of cleaning liquid, boxes of soft cloths, and her most prized possession, industrial-grade floor polish. This polish was special. It could make any floor so smooth and shiny that you could see your face in it. Yuna used it every week on Deck 7. It was her secret weapon against dirt. She closed the closet door and walked down the corridor. Her soft shoes made no sound on the polished floor. She smiled. Everything was perfect. On the other side of the ship, Ambassador Taeho was getting ready for the meeting. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a warm smile. He had been a diplomat for 20 years, and he had met many alien species, but he had never met the Velkari in person. He was a little nervous, but he did not show it. His assistant, a young woman named Mina, knocked on his door. She came inside with a tablet in her hands. Her face looked worried. "Ambassador," she said, "the Velkari shuttle has arrived, but there is something you should know." Taeho raised his eyebrows. "What is it?" "They brought their children." This was unexpected. The Velkari were famous for keeping their young ones hidden and protected. Cubs, they called them. Velkari cubs stayed on their home planet until they were adults. They never traveled to other places. For them to bring cubs to this meeting was either a great honor or a very big problem. "How many children?" Taeho asked. 3, Mina said. 2 males and 1 female. They are young, maybe 5 or 6 years old in human terms. Taeho took a deep breath. "This changes things. We must be extra careful. We must make sure nothing bad happens to those children. If a Velkari cub gets hurt on our ship, there will be no peace agreement. There might be war instead." Mina nodded. She understood. The Velkari delegation arrived at the main docking bay. There were 6 adults and 3 cubs. The adults walked in a formal line, their heads held high. They wore long robes made of dark fabric, and their yellow eyes scanned everything around them. They looked proud and strong. The cubs were different. They walked behind their parents, but their eyes were not serious. They were curious. They looked at the lights on the ceiling. They looked at the smooth walls. They sniffed the air with their small noses. Everything was new and interesting to them. The largest cub was named Rock. He had dark brown fur and a white patch on his chest. He was the oldest of the 3 and liked to pretend he was brave. The second cub was named Tal. He had light gray fur and was smaller than Rock. He was quiet but very smart. The youngest was a female named Lyra. She had golden fur that sparkled under the lights. She was the most curious of all. Ambassador Taeho greeted the Velkari with a deep bow. The leader of the Velkari, a massive warrior named Gorak, bowed back. They exchanged formal words of welcome. Everything was going according to plan. Then Gorak spoke in his deep, rumbling voice. "My mate and I have brought our cubs to show our trust in humans. They will stay on your ship while we conduct our meetings. This is a great honor. Do not disappoint us." Taiho kept his smile steady, but inside his heart beat faster. The cubs would stay on the ship, without their parents watching them. This was a test, a dangerous test. "We are honored," Taiho said. "Your cubs will be safe with us." The meetings began in the conference room on Deck 3. The adults talked about trade routes, borders, and military cooperation. The discussions were long and complicated. They would take many hours, maybe even days. Meanwhile, the 3 cubs were left in a recreation room on Deck 5. A young crew member named Ji Woo was assigned to watch them. He was an engineer, not a babysitter, but someone had to do it. He sat on a chair and watched the cubs nervously. Rock, Tal, and Lyra explored the room. They touched the soft couches. They pressed buttons on the entertainment console. They looked out the window at the stars. But after 1 hour, they were bored. "This place is dull," Rock said in his native language. "There is nothing to hunt, nothing to climb." "I want to explore," Lyra said. Her golden eyes were bright with excitement. "I want to see the rest of the ship." Tal looked at the human watching them. Jiwoo was looking at his tablet, not paying attention. "The human is distracted," Tal whispered. "We can leave without him noticing." The 3 cubs moved quietly toward the door. Their soft paws made no sound. They had been trained to hunt from a young age, and sneaking was natural to them. The door slid open and they slipped outside. The corridor was long and empty. The cubs ran fast, their hearts filled with joy. They were free to explore. They passed Deck 6 without stopping. The rooms there smelled like medicine, and they did not like it. They kept going until they reached Deck 7. Deck 7 was different. The floors were so shiny that the cubs could see their own reflections. The lights above were bright and warm, and there was a strange smell in the air, something sweet and chemical. Lyra found it first. A small door on the side of the corridor, a supply closet. She pushed it open with her paw. Inside there were many bottles and boxes. But one bottle caught her attention. It was big and round, filled with clear liquid that sparkled under the light. She picked it up and sniffed it. It smelled wonderful. "What is that?" Rock asked, coming up behind her. "I do not know," Lyra said, "but I like it." She turned the bottle upside down. The liquid poured out onto the floor. It spread quickly, covering the ground in a thin, slippery layer. Tal stepped on it first. His paws slid out from under him, and he fell on his bottom. But he did not get hurt. Instead, he slid forward across the floor, moving fast without any effort. "Whoa!" he shouted. It was the most fun he had ever had. Rock and Lyra looked at each other. Then they both stepped onto the slippery floor. They slid together, spinning and laughing. "More!" Lyra shouted. "We need more!" They found more bottles in the closet. Many more bottles. They poured them all onto the floor, covering the entire corridor in floor polish. The whole deck became one giant slippery surface. And that was when the real chaos began. Back in her office, Yuna received an alert on her computer. Something was wrong on Deck 7. She stood up quickly and rushed out the door. She had no idea what she would find. But nothing could have prepared her for the sight of 3 predator cubs sliding at high speed down her perfectly polished corridor, screaming with pure joy. Yuna stood at the entrance of Deck 7 with her mouth open. She could not believe what she was seeing. Her beautiful corridor, her pride and joy, was covered in floor polish. Not just a thin layer, but a thick, slippery coating that made the entire floor look like a frozen lake. And on that frozen lake, 3 furry aliens were sliding at incredible speed. Rock shot past her first. His dark brown fur was a blur as he zoomed down the corridor. His claws were extended, trying to grip the floor, but they found nothing. He was completely out of control, and he was laughing so hard that tears were coming from his yellow eyes. "This is amazing!" he shouted in his language. Yuna did not understand the words, but she understood the joy in his voice. Tal came next. The gray cub had discovered that if he lay flat on his stomach, he could slide even faster. He was spinning in circles as he moved, his arms and legs spread wide like a furry starfish. And then came Lyra. The golden cub had found a large metal tray in one of the storage rooms. She was sitting on it like a sled, using her tail to steer. She was going faster than both her brothers, and her excited screams echoed through the entire deck. Yuna's shock turned to panic. These were Velkari cubs, predator children. If anything happened to them, if they got hurt, there would be terrible consequences. She had to stop them. But how do you stop something sliding on a frictionless surface? She took one step onto the polished floor. Her foot slipped immediately. She fell hard on her back, and then she was sliding too. The floor was so slippery that even the smallest movement sent her gliding forward. She tried to grab the wall, but her hands could not find a grip. "Help!" she shouted. "Someone help!" Her cry reached the ears of Jiwoo, who had finally noticed that the cubs were missing. He ran to Deck 7 as fast as he could. When he arrived, he saw Yuna sliding helplessly toward a wall. He jumped onto the floor to catch her. Bad idea. His feet went out from under him, and he joined her in the chaos. Now both humans were sliding across the deck, bumping into walls and spinning in circles. The cubs thought this was the funniest thing they had ever seen. "Look!" Lyra shouted. "The humans are playing too." "They are not very good at it," Rock observed. "They keep falling." "Humans do not have claws," Tal explained. "They cannot balance like we can." This was true. Even though the cubs could not grip the floor with their claws, their natural balance was much better than the humans. They had grown up climbing trees and hunting in forests. They knew how to move their bodies. The humans did not. Yuna finally managed to grab a door handle. She pulled herself up and pressed her back against the wall. Her heart was beating fast and her uniform was covered in floor polish. "We need to contain them," she said to Jiwoo, who had crashed into a corner. "We need barriers." Jiwoo nodded. He pulled out his communicator and called for help. Within minutes, other crew members arrived at Deck 7. They brought portable barriers made of strong plastic. These barriers were used for emergencies, to block off dangerous areas of the ship. Engineer Hana was the first to set up a barrier. She placed it across the corridor, creating a wall that the cubs could not pass. But she had forgotten one thing. The floor was still slippery. Rock saw the barrier. He was sliding toward it at high speed. A normal person would try to stop. Rock was not a normal person. He was a Velkari cub, and Velkari cubs did not give up easily. At the last moment, Rock jumped. His powerful legs pushed off the slippery floor, and he flew through the air. He cleared the barrier easily and landed on the other side, still sliding. "Did you see that?" he shouted to his siblings. "I flew!" Tal and Lyra wanted to try too. They started sliding toward the barrier, building up speed. "No, no, no!" Hana shouted. She grabbed another barrier and placed it behind the first one, making a double wall. But it was not enough. Tal jumped over both barriers like they were nothing. Lyra did something even more impressive. She lay flat on her metal tray and slid under the barriers, passing through the small gap at the bottom. She emerged on the other side with a huge smile on her face. "We need more barriers," Hana called out. But every barrier they set up became a new challenge for the cubs. The children treated them like obstacles in a game. Jump over this one, slide under that one, bounce off this one, and change direction. The crew members were exhausted. They had been chasing the cubs for 30 minutes, and they had not caught a single one. Dr. Sujin arrived from the medical bay. She was an older woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had dealt with many emergencies in her career, but nothing like this. "What is happening here?" she asked. Yuna explained the situation quickly. The cubs, the floor polish, the failed barriers. Sujin thought for a moment. "Have you tried asking them to stop?" Everyone looked at her like she was crazy. "They are predator children," Jiwoo said. "They do not listen to humans." "Have you tried?" Sujin asked again. No one had. They had been so focused on catching the cubs that they had not thought to simply talk to them. Sujin walked carefully to the edge of the slippery zone. She held onto the wall for support and called out to the cubs. "Little ones," she said in a loud but gentle voice, "can you hear me?" The cubs stopped sliding. They were curious about this new human. She was different from the others. She was not chasing them or trying to catch them. "What do you want, human?" Rock asked. His translator device turned his words into English. "I want to know if you are having fun," Sujin said. The cubs looked at each other. This was a strange question. No adult had ever asked them if they were having fun. "Yes," Lyra said carefully, "we are having lots of fun. This sliding game is the best." "I can see that," Sujin said with a smile. "But some of my friends are worried. They think you might get hurt." "We will not get hurt," Tal said proudly. "We are Velkari. We are strong." "I believe you," Sujin said. "But could you do me a favor? Could you stay in this part of the deck? If you go to other parts of the ship, you might scare people." The cubs considered this. They did not want to scare people. They just wanted to play. "We will stay here," Rock agreed, "but only if you do not take away the sliding floor." Sujin looked at Yuna. The maintenance officer was not happy about this deal. Her beautiful floor was ruined. But she nodded. The cubs' safety was more important than a clean floor. "Deal," Sujin said. For the next hour, the cubs played happily in their section of Deck 7. They invented new games. They raced each other from one end to the other. They practiced jumping and spinning. They even tried to teach each other tricks. The crew members watched from behind the barriers. They were amazed by what they saw. These were the children of fierce warriors, the cubs of apex predators, and they were playing like any other children in the galaxy. "They are just kids," Jiwoo said quietly. "I forgot that aliens have kids too." Hana nodded. "They are cute, in a terrifying way." Meanwhile, the meetings on Deck 3 continued. Ambassador Taiho and the Velkari leaders discussed important matters. They did not know about the chaos happening on Deck 7. Mina had decided not to tell them. She was afraid it would ruin the negotiations. But secrets cannot stay hidden forever. At exactly 1500 hours, a Velkari warrior named Kira asked about her cubs. She was the mother of Rock and Tal, and she had not seen them for many hours. "Where are my children?" she asked. Her voice was calm, but her yellow eyes were sharp. Mina swallowed nervously. "They are playing on Deck 7. "Playing?" Kira repeated. "Velkari cubs do not play. They train." "Well," Mina said slowly, "they have found a new kind of training. A sliding training." Kira stood up from her chair. She was over 6 feet tall, and her presence filled the room. "Take me to them, now!" Mina had no choice. She led Kira and 2 other Velkari parents out of the conference room. They walked through the ship until they reached Deck 7. What they found there changed everything. 3 Velkari cubs were sliding across a shiny floor, laughing and screaming with happiness. Human crew members stood nearby, watching with smiles on their faces. There was no danger, no fear, no fighting, just joy. Kira stared at her sons. She had never seen them so happy. On their home planet, cubs were taught to be serious and strong. Fun was considered a weakness, but here, on this human ship, her children were free. "What is this substance?" she asked, pointing at the floor. Yuna stepped forward nervously. "It is floor polish, industrial grade. I use it to clean the deck." "Floor polish," Kira repeated. She looked at the sliding cubs again. Then she did something that shocked everyone. She stepped onto the slippery floor. Her feet slipped immediately, and she fell on her bottom. But instead of getting angry, she started to laugh. A deep, rumbling laugh that sounded like thunder. "This is wonderful!" she shouted. "Gorak, come here! You must try this!" And that was how the leader of the Velkhari delegation ended up sliding on his bottom across Deck 7, laughing like a child while his cubs cheered him on. The diplomatic meetings were put on hold. Nobody cared about trade routes anymore. They had discovered something more important. They had discovered how to play together. The scene on Deck 7 was something nobody could have predicted. The most powerful Velkhari warriors in the galaxy were sliding on their bottoms across a polished floor. They were laughing, falling, and trying to catch their cubs, and they were failing beautifully. Gorak, the leader of the Velkhari delegation, was the largest alien on the ship. He stood 7 feet tall and weighed over 300 pounds. His muscles were thick and powerful, trained from years of combat. He had fought in wars. He had killed enemies with his bare claws. He was feared throughout the galaxy, and right now, he could not stand up. Every time he tried to get to his feet, they slipped out from under him. His claws scratched uselessly against the polished floor. His massive tail swung wildly, trying to help him balance, but it only made things worse. "This floor is cursed," he roared, but there was laughter in his voice. His mate, Kira, slid past him at high speed. "It is not cursed, my love. It is fun." The 3 cubs were overjoyed. They had never seen their parents play before. On their home planet, adults were always serious. They trained, they hunted, and they prepared for war. Play was for cubs only, and even then it was not encouraged. But here, on this strange human ship, everything was different. Lyra slid over to her father and grabbed his arm. "Come, father, I will teach you how to slide." Gorak looked at his daughter. Her golden fur was messy, her eyes were bright, and her smile was wider than he had ever seen. He could not say no to that face. "Teach me, little one," he said. The Velkhari cub showed her father how to position his body. "Keep your arms close," she explained. "Do not fight the sliding. Let it take you. Use your tail for small movements, not big ones." Gorak listened carefully. He was a warrior who had mastered many skills. He had learned sword fighting, archery, and hand-to-hand combat. He had studied strategy and tactics. But sliding on a slippery floor? This was new. He tried again. This time, he relaxed his muscles and let his body move with the floor instead of against it. He started sliding slowly at first, then faster. His arms stayed at his sides, and his tail made tiny adjustments to his direction. "I am doing it!" he shouted. "I am sliding!" The cubs cheered. The other Velkhari adults tried to copy his technique. Some succeeded, others failed spectacularly. Meanwhile, the human crew members watched from the edges of the deck. They were amazed by what they were seeing. These fierce predators, these deadly warriors, were acting like children at a playground. Ambassador Taiho arrived at Deck 7 with Mina at his side. He had heard about the commotion and wanted to see it for himself. When he saw Gorak sliding across the floor with his daughter, he stopped in his tracks. "Is this real?" he whispered to Mina. "I think so," she replied. "I have been watching for 10 minutes, and I still cannot believe it." Taiho watched the Velkhari play. He noticed something important. They were not just sliding randomly, they were bonding. The parents were spending time with their cubs. The cubs were teaching their parents new things. The whole family was learning and laughing together. This was exactly what diplomacy was supposed to achieve: connection, understanding, trust. Yuna approached the ambassador. Her uniform was still covered in floor polish stains, and she looked exhausted. "Ambassador, I am so sorry about this mess. I will clean everything up as soon as the Velkhari are finished." Taiho shook his head. Do not clean anything yet. This mess might be the best thing that has happened to our negotiations. Yuna was confused. Sir? Look at them, Taiho said, pointing at the Velkari. They are happy. They are relaxed. They are showing us a side of themselves that no human has ever seen. That is worth more than a clean floor. The maintenance officer still looked doubtful, but she nodded and stepped back. On the slippery floor, the games continued. Rock had organized a race between the cubs and their parents. The cubs lined up at one end of the corridor, and the adults lined up at the other end. When Lyra gave the signal, they would all slide toward the middle and see who arrived first. Ready? Lyra called out. Go! The cubs pushed off with their powerful legs and shot forward. The adults did the same. For a moment, everyone was moving at once, sliding and spinning and laughing. Tal won the race. He arrived at the middle first, spinning in a perfect circle to stop himself. Rock came second, and Lyra came third. Among the adults, Kira was the fastest. Gorak came last, but he did not mind. He was too busy laughing. Again! The cubs shouted. We want to race again! They raced 5 more times. Each time, someone different won. The cubs were faster, but the adults were learning quickly. Soon, the games were very close. Dr. Sujin walked onto the edge of the deck. She was carrying a medical scanner just in case someone got hurt. But no one was hurt. In fact, everyone seemed healthier than before. The Velkari were breathing hard from exercise, and their eyes were bright with joy. Ambassador, Sujin said quietly, I have been monitoring the Velkari vital signs. Their stress levels have dropped by 40%. Their heart rates indicate they are experiencing positive emotions. This play is good for them. Taiho nodded thoughtfully. It is good for all of us. He made a decision. A bold one. Mina, he said, bring me my shoes. His assistant looked at him strangely. Your shoes, sir? Yes. I am going to take them off. Mina brought the ambassador his formal diplomatic shoes. He removed them carefully and set them aside. Then he rolled up the legs of his fancy pants. Sir? What are you doing? Mina asked nervously. I am going to join them, Taiho said. Diplomacy is about building bridges. Sometimes those bridges are made of treaties and agreements, and sometimes they are made of floor polish. He stepped onto the slippery surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his feet started to slide and he lost his balance. He fell backward, landing hard on his bottom. It hurt, but he did not care. He started laughing. The Velkari stopped their games and stared at the human ambassador. They could not believe what they were seeing. A high-ranking human official was sitting on the floor, laughing at himself. Gorak slid over to Taiho. The massive warrior towered over the sitting human. His face was unreadable. Ambassador, he said in his deep voice, are you hurt? Taiho looked up at him with a smile. Only my pride honored Gorak, but pride heals quickly. For a long moment, Gorak said nothing. Then his mouth curved into a smile, revealing his sharp teeth. He reached down with one massive paw and helped Taiho to his feet. You are brave, human, Gorak said. Foolish, but brave. I respect that. Thank you, Taiho said. Now would you teach me how to slide? The Velkari leader laughed his thunderous laugh. My daughter will teach you. She is the best teacher. Lyra slid over to the ambassador. Her golden fur sparkled under the lights, and her young face was serious and proud. First, she said in her small voice, you must relax. Humans are too stiff. You must be like water. Taiho listened to every word. He followed her instructions carefully. Within minutes, he was sliding across the deck, not gracefully, but successfully. Each time he fell, he got back up. Each time he failed, he tried again. Other crew members started to join in. Jiwoo removed his shoes and stepped onto the floor. Hana followed him, then Sujin, then Mina. Soon Deck 7 was filled with humans and Velkari, all sliding together. The boundaries between species faded away. There were no predators and prey here. No warriors and diplomats, just people having fun. The cubs were delighted. They had more playmates than ever before. They organized team races, with mixed groups of humans and Velkari competing against each other. They invented new games like tag and keep away. They even started a sliding dance, moving in patterns across the floor. Yuna watched from the corridor entrance. Her floor was ruined. Her precious polish was being worn away by dozens of sliding bodies. Her perfect Deck 7 was a mess. But she was smiling. "This is not what I expected when I came to work today," she said to herself. Dr. Sujin slid over to her. The older woman was breathing hard, but her face was glowing with happiness. "Sometimes," Sujin said, "the best things are unexpected." Yuna nodded slowly. "I suppose you are right." She looked at her supply closet. There were more bottles of floor polish inside. Many more bottles. "Doctor," Yuna said, "would you like some more sliding surface? I think I have enough polish to cover the whole corridor." Sujin's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Very serious," Yuna said. "If we are going to do this, we should do it properly." She went to her closet and started pulling out bottles. One by one, she handed them to crew members, who spread the polish across the floor. The sliding surface grew larger and larger, extending down the entire length of Deck 7. When Gorak saw what she was doing, he slid over to her. "Human," he said, "why are you helping us make a bigger mess?" Yuna looked up at the towering warrior. She should have been afraid. She was not. "Because," she said, "a clean floor is nice, but a floor full of happy people is better." Gorak stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He bowed to her. It was a deep bow, the kind reserved for honored warriors and respected elders. The kind that said, "I see your worth and I acknowledge it." "You are wise, human," Gorak said. "My people could learn much from you." Yuna did not know what to say, so she just smiled and handed him another bottle of polish. "Here," she said, "help me spread this. We have a lot more floor to cover." And together, a human maintenance officer and a Velkari warlord got to work making the biggest sliding arena the galaxy had ever seen. News travels fast on a spaceship. Within 1 hour, everyone on the Harmony knew about the sliding arena on Deck 7. Crew members who were not on duty came to watch. Officers who had important work found reasons to take breaks. Even the ship's captain, a serious woman named Yunji, left her command chair to see what was happening. She stood at the entrance of Deck 7 with her arms crossed. Her face showed no emotion as she watched humans and Velkari sliding across the polished floor together. Ambassadors, warriors, cubs, and crew members were all mixed up in a chaotic dance of laughter and falling. "Someone want to explain this to me?" she asked in her calm voice. Mina rushed over, her hair messy and her face red from exercise. "Captain, I can explain. The cubs found the floor polish, and then the parents came, and then the ambassador joined, and then—" Yunji held up her hand. "I can see what happened, Lieutenant. What I want to know is why no one stopped it." Mina hesitated. She did not have a good answer, but Ambassador Taiho did. He slid over to the captain, moving with surprising skill for someone who had learned to slide just an hour ago. "Captain," he said, "I take full responsibility for this situation. What started as an accident has become something valuable. The Velkari are relaxed and happy. Their children are safe and entertained. And we have built more trust in the last 2 hours than in the last 2 years of negotiations." Yunji looked at him. Then she looked at the Velkari. Gorak was teaching a group of human engineers how to do a spinning slide. Kira was racing with her sons. Lyra was leading a sliding parade with Dr. Sujin. The captain was quiet for a long moment. "How long do you plan to continue this?" she finally asked. "As long as the Velkari want to," Taiho said. "This is their moment. We should let them enjoy it." Yunji nodded slowly. "Very well, but I want safety officers stationed around the deck, and medical staff on standby. If anyone gets seriously hurt, this party ends immediately. Understood, Captain, Tai-Ho said. Thank you. Yunji turned to leave, but before she did, she looked back over her shoulder. Ambassador, she said, you might want to get me a pair of those sliding trays. That looks like fun. Tai-Ho smiled. I will see what I can do, Captain. The party grew bigger and more organized. Yuna took charge of logistics. She divided Deck 7 into different zones. There was a racing zone at the north end, where people could compete for speed. There was a freestyle zone in the middle, where people could practice tricks and spins. And there was a beginner zone at the south end, where newcomers could learn the basics. She also set up a refreshment station near the entrance. Crew members brought water, snacks, and towels. Velkari and humans sat together on the dry floor, catching their breath and sharing food. The cubs discovered human snacks for the first time. Rock tried a chocolate bar and his eyes went wide. What is this? He asked, his mouth full of chocolate. It is amazing. It is called chocolate, Jiwoo explained. It is made from a plant on our home planet. We must have this plant on our world, Rock said seriously. I will tell my father. We must trade for this chocolate. Tal preferred the salty snacks. He ate 3 bags of chips in 10 minutes. Lyra was more adventurous. She tried everything, from cookies to dried fruit to something called beef jerky. Human food is strange, she announced, but I like it. The adult Velkari were more cautious about trying new food, but curiosity got the better of them. Soon, Gorak was eating a sandwich and Kira was sipping a cup of hot tea. This drink, Kira said, holding up her cup. What is it? Tea, Hana told her. We make it by putting dried leaves in hot water. Kira looked doubtful. Leaves? You drink leaves? They are special leaves, Hana said. They have a calming effect. Kira took another sip. Her expression softened. I understand now. This is peaceful. I like it. As the hours passed, the activities on Deck 7 became more creative. Someone suggested a sliding competition with judges and prizes. Ambassador Tai-Ho thought this was an excellent idea. The competition had 3 categories: speed, style, and creativity. Anyone could enter, human or Velkari. The judges were a mixed panel: Captain Yunji, Gorak, Yuna, and Dr. Sujin. The speed competition went first. Participants raced from one end of the deck to the other, and the fastest time won. The humans had no chance in this category. Velkari cubs were simply too fast. Lyra won with a time that seemed impossible, sliding the entire length of the deck in just 4 seconds. That cannot be right, Jiwoo said, checking his timer. She was like a rocket. Velkari cubs are the fastest creatures in our sector, Gorak said proudly. On our world, they must be fast to survive. The style competition was more interesting. Participants had to slide across the deck while looking graceful and controlled. No falling, no stumbling, just smooth, beautiful movement. Surprisingly, a human won this category. A young woman named Ye Jin from the science department moved across the floor like a dancer. She spun slowly, arms extended, her body perfectly balanced. The Velkari watched in amazement. They had power and speed, but humans had something different. They had elegance. How does she do that? Tal asked his mother. She moves like water. Humans have different bodies than us, Kira explained. They cannot run as fast or fight as hard, but they can move in ways we cannot. It is beautiful. The creativity competition was the most fun. Participants had to invent a new sliding trick and perform it for the judges. The tricks ranged from simple to ridiculous. Jiwoo tried to slide while juggling 3 balls. He failed immediately, the balls flying everywhere. Rock attempted a backward slide with his eyes closed. He crashed into the wall but got points for bravery. Hana and Mina worked together on a synchronized slide, moving in perfect mirror images of each other. It was impressive, and the crowd cheered. But the winner was unexpected. Gorak, the mighty leader of the Velkari delegation, performed a trick that no one saw coming. He asked his 3 cubs to stand on his shoulders as he slid across the floor. Rock on the left shoulder, Tal on the right, and Lyra sitting on top of his head. Together they formed a tower of fur and claws, sliding in perfect balance down the entire deck. The crowd went silent for a moment. Then they exploded in cheers. Humans and Velkari alike applauded and shouted. It was the most amazing thing anyone had ever seen. Gorak reached the end of the deck and carefully lowered his cubs to the ground. His face was glowing with pride. "That was for my children," he said to the judges. "Everything I do is for them." Captain Yunji, who rarely showed emotion, wiped a tear from her eye. "I think we have our winner," she said. Gorak received the prize, a special bottle of floor polish, signed by every member of the crew. He held it up like a trophy, and the crowd cheered again. Later, as the energy on Deck 7 finally started to slow down, Ambassador Taiho found Gorak sitting alone near the refreshment station. The big warrior was watching his cubs play with human children, a soft expression on his fierce face. "May I join you?" Taiho asked. Gorak nodded. The human sat down beside him, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "This was not how I expected this trip to go," Gorak finally said. "No," Taiho agreed. "I think everyone is surprised." Gorak turned to look at the ambassador. His yellow eyes were thoughtful. "My people are warriors," he said. "We are taught to be strong, to fight, to conquer. We do not play. We do not laugh. We do not show weakness." He paused, watching Lyra slide past with a group of human friends. "But today," he continued, "I learned something. Laughter is not weakness. Play is not foolishness. These things make us stronger, not weaker." Taiho nodded. "Humans discovered this long ago. We believe that joy is as important as strength, maybe more important." "Perhaps," Gorak said, "but it is hard to change the ways of my people. We have been warriors for 1,000 generations." "Change does not happen overnight," Taiho said. "It starts with small moments, like today, like your cubs playing with our children, like you sliding on the floor with your daughter." Gorak was silent for a long moment. Then he laughed, his deep voice echoing through the deck. "You are wise, Ambassador. Wiser than I expected from a species so small and soft." Taiho smiled. "We may be small and soft, but we are persistent, and we make excellent floor polish." Both of them laughed at that. And in that moment, they were not a diplomat and a warrior. They were just 2 fathers, watching their people play together, hoping for a better future. The competition was over, but the games continued late into the night. Eventually, the cubs fell asleep in a pile of human children, all of them exhausted and happy, and the adults kept sliding. The morning came quietly to the Harmony. The ship's lights slowly brightened, simulating sunrise for the crew. On Deck 7, the aftermath of the previous night was visible everywhere. Empty snack wrappers, forgotten towels, and streaks of floor polish covered every surface. And in the corner, a pile of sleeping cubs and children lay tangled together, fur and skin and soft breathing all mixed up. Yuna was the first to arrive. She stood at the entrance of her deck with a mop in one hand and a bucket in the other. She looked at the mess, and for a moment, her heart sank. It would take days to clean this up, maybe weeks. But then she looked at the sleeping children. Rock's dark fur was pressed against a human boy's arm. Tal's tail was wrapped around a little human girl's waist, and Lyra was using a human teenager's stomach as a pillow, her golden fur rising and falling with each breath. Yuna put down her mop. The cleaning could wait. Ambassador Taiho arrived next. He had not slept much, but he did not feel tired. He felt alive. The events of yesterday had changed something inside him. He had been a diplomat for 20 years, and he had always believed that peace came from careful words and formal agreements. Now he knew that peace could also come from sliding on a polished floor. He found Gorak standing by the observation window, looking out at the stars. The Velkhari leader turned when he heard the ambassador approach. "Good morning, human," Gorak said. "Good morning, honored Gorak," Taiho replied. "Did you sleep?" "A little," Gorak said, "but I spent most of the night thinking." "About what?" Gorak was quiet for a moment. Then he turned fully to face the ambassador. "I have decided something," he said. "When I return to my homeworld, I will make a proposal to our council. I will ask them to add something to our treaty with humans." Taiho raised his eyebrows. "What kind of addition?" "I will call it the Recreational Protocol," Gorak said. "I will request that all future diplomatic meetings between our species include time for play, for sliding or games or whatever activities bring joy." The ambassador was stunned. This was unprecedented. The Velkhari had never proposed anything like this before. "Do you think your council will agree?" Taiho asked. Gorak showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "They will resist at first. Change is difficult for my people, but I will bring videos of yesterday. I will show them their cubs playing with human children. I will show them the happiness in their eyes." He paused. "A leader who can make children happy has true power. My council will understand this." Taiho felt something warm spreading in his chest. Hope. Real hope. "I think," he said carefully, "this could be the beginning of something beautiful." "I think so too," Gorak said. They shook hands, the massive clawed paw wrapped gently around the small human fingers. It was an awkward gesture, but it felt right. Later that morning, the formal meetings resumed in the conference room, but something had changed. The Velkhari were more relaxed. They smiled more often. They listened more carefully, and when disagreements arose, they did not become angry. They talked them through. The treaty was signed before lunch. It was a simple document covering trade, borders, and mutual defense, but it included one extra clause. Added at Gorak's insistence, both parties agreed to establish the Recreational Protocol. All future diplomatic meetings shall include dedicated time for shared play and relaxation. The specific activities shall be determined by the children of both species. Ambassador Taiho smiled as he read this clause. It was strange to see such words in an official treaty, but it was also wonderful. The signing ceremony was held on Deck 7. They had cleaned up the sleeping children, but they had not cleaned the floor. The Polish was still there, shining under the lights. Gorak stood before his people and the human crew. His deep voice filled the deck. "Today we sign a treaty of peace and friendship," he announced. "But we also celebrate something greater. We celebrate the discovery that different species can find joy together. We celebrate the children who taught us this lesson." He looked down at Rock, Tal, and Lyra, who stood beside him. "These cubs found a bottle of floor polish," he continued. "They turned a corridor into a playground. They did what cubs do. They played. And in playing, they showed us a truth that adults often forget." He paused, his yellow eyes sweeping across the crowd. "The truth is this. We are all children of the universe. We are all curious, playful, and eager for joy. When we forget this, we become hard and cold. When we remember it, we become truly alive." He turned to Ambassador Taiho and extended his paw. "With this treaty, we remember it together." Taiho took his hand. The two leaders stood side by side, warrior and diplomat, predator and human, bound by a promise and a memory. The crowd cheered. Velkhari and humans embraced. Somewhere in the back, Lyra grabbed a bottle of floor polish and waved it in the air. "More sliding!" she shouted. "We should celebrate with more sliding!" And nobody disagreed. The party that followed was even bigger than the one before. The entire crew of the Harmony joined in. Captain Yunji finally got her sliding tray and spent an hour racing the cubs. Dr. Sujin organized a sliding yoga class. Engineer Jiwoo tried to break his juggling record and failed again. Yuna stood at the edge of it all, watching. Her floor was destroyed. Her precious polish was everywhere. Her perfect Deck 7 would never be the same, and she had never been happier. Hana slid over to her with 2 cups of tea. "You okay, boss?" Yuna took the tea and smiled. "I am better than okay. I am proud." "Proud of what?" "Proud of my floor polish," Yuna said. "I always knew it was special. I just never knew how special." They clinked cups and drank together, watching the chaos unfold. The Velkari delegation left the next day. Their shuttle departed from the main docking bay, carrying warriors, cubs, and a very large supply of floor polish. Gorak had requested 100 bottles to take home. Yuna had given him 200. "Use it wisely," she had told him. "That stuff is powerful." "I will," Gorak had promised. "I will use it to bring joy to my world." And he kept that promise. 6 months later, the first Velkari Recreation Center opened on their homeworld. It was a massive building with smooth floors and sliding zones. Cubs from across the planet came to play there. Adults came too, shedding their serious warrior faces and remembering what it felt like to laugh. The center was named the Yuna Hall in honor of the human maintenance officer who had accidentally started it all. A year after that, the first human Velkari cultural exchange program began. Young Velkari traveled to Earth to experience human games and sports. Young humans traveled to Velkari Prime to learn their traditions. Both species learned from each other. And every year, on the anniversary of the floor polish incident, diplomats from both worlds gathered on a special spaceship. They removed their shoes, they polished the floors, and they slid. It became known as Floor Polish Day. It was the most beloved holiday in either civilization. Historians would later argue about the exact moment that the Human-Velkari alliance truly began. Some said it was when the treaty was signed. Others said it was when Gorak proposed the recreational protocol. But those who were there knew the truth. The alliance began when 3 curious cubs found a bottle of floor polish and decided to see what would happen. And what happened was beautiful. The galaxy learned an important lesson that day. Peace is not built with weapons or threats. It is not bought with money or trade. It is created with laughter, with play, with moments of shared joy. Humans knew this all along. They had always been a species that valued fun, that celebrated silliness, that believed in the power of games. Other species saw this as a weakness. The Velkari learned it was the greatest strength of all. And it all started with floor polish. In the years that followed, whenever a young person asked how humans and Velkari became such close allies, the elders would tell this story. They would describe the cubs, the sliding, the chaos, and the joy. They would explain how something small and accidental became something huge and important. And they would always end with the same words. Never underestimate the power of play. And never, ever underestimate the power of a good floor polish. The end.